Now let's start with the chemical properties now. Now let's start with the chemical properties of metals and non-metals. Right, so we'll start with the first property, that is reaction with oxygen. So the first thing you should know is that whenever any substance reacts with oxygen, it forms the respective oxide. It forms its respective oxide. Like when metal reacts with oxygen, it forms metal oxide. That is M plus O2. This is the general equation that we are taking. M means metal plus O2, that is it is reacting with oxygen, and it forms MO2 or can be M2O3 or can be M2O, and the formula can be anything just depending upon the valency of metal. As we know that whenever any ionic compound is formed, that is a compound between metal and a non-metal, they interchange their valencies, right? So that is the reason the formula of compound can be anything just depending upon the valency of the metal. So in that way, metal react with oxygen to form metal oxide, and the formula of metal oxide depend upon the valency of the metal. So for example, let's take an example of certain metal. Let's say I have sodium. We know that the symbol for sodium is Na. So Na react with oxygen, that is plus O2, it will form Na2O, right? Likewise, if we react calcium, that is Ca, with O2 plus O2, we get calcium oxide, that is CaO. Likewise, if I take another example, aluminium, that is Al. Al react with oxygen, right, and it forms the compound that is aluminium oxide with formula Al2O3, right? I think you got it. So we can take example for any metals like this, and we can combine with oxygen and we will get the respective oxide. Now what about the nature of oxides, the nature of metal oxides? See, metal oxides are basic in nature. And how we come to know that they are basic? Because when we react or treat them with the litmus solution, they turn red litmus blue. That is the reason we can say that metal oxides are basic in nature. But all the metal oxides are not basic. We have the exceptional cases here also. So in this, the aluminium oxide and the zinc oxide, they are amphoteric in nature. Now what do I mean by amphoteric? Amphoteric word means, or you can say amphoteric oxide means an oxide which behave as acid as well as base, right? And it can also react with acid and base. That is the reason it has the dual character. That is the reason it is called as amphoteric oxide. Got it? So aluminium oxide and zinc oxide is amphoteric in nature. But all other metal oxides, they are basic. Now, if somebody asks you, or if I ask you that how you can prove that aluminium oxide and zinc oxide are amphoteric in nature. So how can we prove that? We can prove that by taking the oxide and reacting it with acid and reacting it with base. Like if I take an example of aluminium oxide, so let's say I have aluminium oxide as Al2O3. So let us react with acid first. So let's take acid as HCl. So Al2O3 plus HCl. What do we get? We get AlCl3, right, plus H2O. Got it? Now, in the second reaction, I'm going to react it with base. So I have Al2O3 and I'm reacting with a base, say NaOH, that is sodium hydroxide. When they both react, we get a compound that is sodium aluminate with formula NaAlO2, and along with that we get water. So this is how you can prove that the aluminium oxide is amphoteric in nature. In a similar manner, we can do it for the zinc oxide also. If like somebody asks you to prove its amphoteric nature, we can carry out the same reaction of zinc oxide with an acid and a base, and it will prove that it is amphoteric in nature. But if I talk about the non-metals, right? So non-metals also react with oxygen and they form their respective oxides, that is non-metal oxides. Got it? And the formula can be SO2, CO2. That also varies from non-metal to non-metal. For example, if I have carbon, that is C plus O2, then I'll get CO2, right? But we also know that whenever we react carbon with insufficient oxygen, we get one more oxide, that is carbon monoxide. So instead of carbon dioxide, we get carbon monoxide, right? So let's take another example for some non-metal. Let's say we have sulfur, that is S. S plus O2, we get SO2. Right, but we can convert this SO2 into another sulfur oxide, that is sulfur trioxide also. SO3 plus O2, reversible reaction in presence of catalyst, vanadium pentaoxide, and we get the oxide that is SO3, that is sulfur trioxide. So likewise, we can form the non-metal oxides in the same manner. Got it? So if I talk about the nature of non-metal oxides now, the nature of non-metal oxide is acidic. Non-metal oxides are acidic in nature. That means when we react the non-metal oxides with water, they form respective acids. Let's take an example. Let's say I have an oxide that is carbon dioxide, CO2. I am adding it to water, that is H2O. So CO2 plus H2O, they will react and it will give rise to an acid, and the acid formed is H2CO3, that is carbonic acid. Got it? Likewise, if I take another example, that is SO2, sulfur dioxide, I am reacting it with water. When sulfur dioxide react with water, it forms H2SO3, that is sulfurous acid. So likewise, we can prove for other non-metal oxides also that they are acidic in nature. And if we'll react them with the litmus solution, then also we can come to know that they are acidic because they turn blue litmus red. They turn blue litmus red. That shows that non-metal oxides are acidic in nature. So got it? That metal oxides are basic, but aluminium oxide and zinc oxide, they are amphoteric. And if I talk about the nature of metal oxide, so I think you got it, that metal oxides are basic and aluminium oxide and zinc oxide, they are amphoteric. And if we talk about non-metal oxides, they are acidic, right? And we do come across the the neutral oxides of non-metal also, like carbon monoxide is a neutral oxide, water is a neutral oxide. So we come across a lot of examples. So non-metal oxides are mostly acidic, but we do come across the neutral oxides also, like we have water and we have carbon monoxide. So let's start with the another property, that is the reaction with water. Right. So first thing you should know that whenever any substance react with water, OH group which is present in water, that is the hydroxide group which is present in water, that get attached with an element and its respective hydroxide is formed. So whenever the element react with water, it forms its respective metal hydroxide, and along with that the gas is released, and that gas is the hydrogen gas. And we have already done in the chemical reaction that we can test the presence of hydrogen gas, because when we bring the matchstick, it starts burning with the popping sound and a pale blue flame, right? So in general manner, if we talk about metal, right, particularly about metal, so let's say if I have metal as M plus water, that means I am reacting metal with water, then metal will react with the hydroxide part, right, that is with the OH negative, and it will form its respective hydroxide. And again, the formula of metal hydroxide can be MOH, can be MOH whole twice, can be MOH whole thrice, just depending upon the valency of the metal, whether it is +1, +2 or +3. So metals react with water, form respective hydroxides, and along with that we get hydrogen gas. But what happens is that few metals react with cold water, few metals react with hot water, few metals react with steam, and there are certain few metals which do not show any kind of reaction with any form of water. So the metals which are placed at the top of reactivity series, they react with cold water. Right, that is sodium, potassium, they react with cold water and form their respective hydroxide as NaOH and KOH. Right, as we move down, we come across calcium, magnesium, right. These metals react with hot water. these metals react with hot water. That means they need some amount of heat in order to react. But as a result, they also form their respective hydroxides like CaOH whole twice plus H2, MgOH whole twice plus H2. Now, as we move down in the series, we come across certain metals like we have iron, we have zinc, we have aluminium. They do not react with cold or hot water, right? But they react with water only when it is in state of steam. So that means they react with steam. So whenever they react with steam, so instead of forming their hydroxide, they form their respective oxides. Like if I have an example of aluminium and it is reacting with steam, right, that is H2O in the form of steam. So instead of forming AlOH whole thrice, it will form Al2O3. And along with that, we'll get the hydrogen gas. So you need to remember that whenever the metals react with steam, they do not form their hydroxide. Instead of that, they form their respective oxides. So likewise, if I take an example of iron, right, iron reacts with steam and it forms the Fe3O4, and along with that, it forms the hydrogen gas. In a similar manner, zinc reacts with steam to form ZnO and H2. Got it? But as we move down in the reactivity series, the metals which are placed below hydrogen, that are copper, mercury, silver, gold, platinum, they do not react with water. They do not react with water in any case. Now, what is the reason behind? See, whenever like the metal is reacting with water, that is with HOH, it is reacting with the OH part and it is displacing the hydrogen. And we know that we have already done in the chemical reaction that in order to carry on the displacement reaction, the element which displaces the another element from its compound, that has to be more reactive. That has to be more reactive. Now in this case, copper is placed below in the reactivity series. It is below hydrogen. So that means it cannot displace hydrogen. It cannot displace hydrogen. So if it cannot displace hydrogen, how the reaction will occur? How it is going to combine with hydroxide? Now, if we talk about non-metals doesn't react with water. Again, why they don't react? The reason being that in order to cause the reaction, they need to displace hydrogen. What does it mean? It means they need to supply the hydrogen with the electrons, or you can say they have to reduce the hydrogen. And how can they give electron to hydrogen, as they themselves are electron acceptors? They cannot donate electrons. They have the nature of, or you can say the tendency of gaining electrons. So that means they cannot displace hydrogen because they do not have sufficient electrons in order to donate it to hydrogen. So in that way, they cannot reduce hydrogen. So that is the reason even the non-metals do not react hydrogen, as they cannot displace hydrogen because they cannot donate electrons. They are themselves electron acceptors. So I think you got it, that why non-metals do not react with water. Now let's move on to the third chemical property, that is the reaction with dilute acids. Right. So whenever like metal or non-metal, like if I talk particularly about metal first, whenever metal react with dilute acid, what do we mean by dilute acid? Acid is one which has the hydrogen ion present in it, right? Or you can say any substance which when added to water produce hydrogen ion which combines with the water molecule in order to form the hydronium ion. That substance is regarded as an acid. Got it? So dilute acid means the acid which has more content of water in it. So if metal, like let's denote it with M in a general form, when metal M react with acid, that is let's take acid as in dilute HCl, right? It reacts with HCl. What happens? Metal will combine with chlorine, right? And it will form its respective metal chloride. That means it is displacing hydrogen, and as a result it will form its metal chloride, and along with that we will get the hydrogen gas. Got it? So this is how the reaction will take place when metal react with any acid. Now let's take one particular example. Let's say I have sodium. We know sodium is Na. Now let's react it with an acid, let's say sulfuric acid. We know that its chemical formula is H2SO4. So let's react Na with H2SO4. Got it? So Na plus H2SO4, that means Na is going to react with SO4 part, that is SO4 2 negative sulfate ion. So as a result, it will form Na2SO4 plus H2. But in order to cause this reaction, there has to be a necessary condition, that is the metal has to be more reactive than hydrogen. Then only it can displace hydrogen and can combine with the negative part. But if the metal is placed below hydrogen in reactivity series, it cannot cause such displacement and the reaction won't occur. That is the reason if I react copper with dilute H2SO4, there won't be any reaction, because copper is less reactive than hydrogen. As per reactivity series, it is placed below hydrogen. So that is the reason the reaction doesn't take place. Got it? Right. So let's move on to non-metal now. Non-metal, like if I take non-metal and I react with some acid, dilute acid, then there won't be any reaction. The reason is going to be same, because in order to cause reaction, they have to react with the negative part, and they can do so only by displacing the hydrogen. And in order to displace hydrogen, they have to donate electrons. So do you think that non-metals can donate electrons? No, they cannot donate, because they don't possess extra electrons. They are themselves electron acceptors. That is the reason the reaction won't take place. So got my point, that non-metals do not react with dilute acids, metal react with dilute acids, but those metals which are placed below hydrogen, they do not react with dilute acids. Got it? Because they cannot displace hydrogen. So I think you are familiar with this property now. So let's move on to the next part.